And let's please bring in Jim Barker, our football analyst, and JB Barks, if you don't mind. We have breaking news. If you've seen from your network, TSN, Aaron Donald announcing his retirement after 10 seasons at the age of 32 in the National Football League. I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming. Did you?
No, not at all. Not at all. First I've heard of it. You're on it more than I am.
How about that?
I didn't know that our Aaron Donald was even thinking of it. But it's a shame. But these guys, they get to a point where their body's at 32, and to go through what you have to go through to make it through an NFL season, and they make so much money that what's another 30, 40 million a year? Whatever it is. So again, nothing surprises me when it comes to, players making decisions to move on and things like that. So, but yeah, no, it catches me off guard.
Caught me off guard. And literally, what else has he got to prove? He's won his Super Bowl. He's made his money, and at his peak, so many people thought that he was the best player in football, quarterbacks included. So bravo to Aaron Donald and a Hall of Fame career. I don't think there's any doubt, but he's announced his retirement here this morning. Jim, I always try to think from a football guy perspective, because I'm a media guy, not a football guy like you. And people are saying how the NFL is a copycat league, and GMs are trying to copy the Super Bowl champs. If you were building an NFL team, like an expansion team right now, would you be signing an older guy like Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, or going through the draft and developing a young quarterback, or praying a Brock Purdy takes you to the Super Bowl on his first contract? Like, how would you go about it? Because there's no real one proven way right now, is there?
Well, I'd put together a 5-year plan of how we're going to get that guy. And if it means we play with Russell Wilson, but in doing that, we go out and draft, maybe we think Drake May is the guy, or we think that, one of the quarterbacks that maybe will fall down a little and we're going to trade up to get him. You have to have a plan. And, that's what we did. That's what I've done everywhere I've been. In Toronto, when I got there, the first thing I did in 2010, when I came the second time, was I fired every quarterback. We were the only team in professional football. We didn't have a quarterback on our roster, because that's where you have to start. And, you look around at what the long-term play for what you can do. And again, it actually worked out, and we did some things in order to secure the ability to get a Ricky Ray. Now, did I know it was going to be Ricky Ray when I first got hired? No. I knew about, maybe halfway through that first season I was there, that Ricky Ray's going to be a possibility. And we then started gearing everything toward being able to get him, because I felt like he was a guy who could take us to that level. It's harder in the CFL than it is in the NFL, just because the number of players that we have to choose from is much different, and a lot of times the good players come up here, and who knows how long they're going to be, and that kind of thing. So it's a little more difficult, but I would go about it the same way. I'd say within 5 years we have to have, if not the best, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. How do we go about doing it? And you have a plan from the beginning, because without that, you're not going to win. It just doesn't happen. Where you want to have a solid team all the way around. There's no doubt about that. But you have to have a plan for how you're going to, move forward at that position. And, you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers now. So, there's no way that they went into it, believing that the kid from Pitt was going to be their guy. That he was not going to be their guy right away. Now they go and they get Russell Wilson. They can take another couple years and develop it. And it's a little bit like the whole Justin Fields, Caleb Williams situation. There's people that say that'll create a bad. I find it fascinating. Right now, they're holding on to both. And Ryan Pace is doing a great job of trying to surround whoever their quarterback is with the right players. You think, wow, how good would they be if they could go out and get Marvin Harrison? Well, they go out and sign trade for Keenan Allen. So now they have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen in their receiving core, and that's pretty darn good. So again, I think they're making a plan. If it's not Justin Fields, which I don't think it is for the Bears, to bring Caleb Williams in and keep Justin Fields there, there's nothing wrong with that. Justin Fields' value right now is maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. That's just where the market seems to be for guys in that situation. So, it's interesting. The Atlanta Falcons, were they going to have Desmond Ridder as their guy? No. Now, what's Kirk Cousins? Does he come in to give them time to say, okay, we're going to find a way to get this guy or that guy? Because I just don't believe Kirk Cousins is the long-term answer. Obviously, they think he's going to be a guy that's a short-term, kind of like the Colts when they went after Matt Ryan. Very similar type of situation. I just can't believe that's their end play. But again, to me, you have to have a 4 or 5 year plan. You can't just wing it.
Yeah, I can't believe that was the plan in India either. And there's no way at 35, I don't think it is in Atlanta. But I got to ask you this. People are sending me these articles of these insane things that Caleb Williams is saying. Number one, he wouldn't go through the on-field testing in Indy. That's not new. His own medicals he wouldn't do with specific teams, right? He wouldn't do those. And now he's saying veterans can't look him in the eye. Did you see this? Once he's drafted, wherever he goes, if it's Chicago or wherever, the vets can't look him in the eye till they earn his respect. What are you trying to do? Like, if I'm Chicago, I'm hanging on to Justin Fields because this guy sounds like a loon. He's like he's trying to destroy his own draft stock. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a little different dude. There's no doubt about it. And that's what we talked about. You don't know what you're getting. You're getting a quarterback who has the skill set of Patrick Mahomes. The closest thing to Patrick Mahomes that's come out of college football. There's no doubt about it. He can throw from all different arm angles. He's just got that ability. But you don't know about the other stuff. You don't know about what is he like in the locker. You hear the stuff that they want you to hear, but you don't really know. Lincoln Riley might know, but Lincoln Riley hadn't coached in the NFL. This guy's never been in an NFL environment. And there's a lot more to play in the quarterback position in professional football than just playing quarterback, which is what he did at Oklahoma and what he did at USC. You look at our league, I think there's a huge difference between being a backup and a starter. Dane Evans, same guy, but he comes into training camp as a starter and everything changes. The whole organization, people's jobs, you look around, people's families are counting on you. That's a big that's a big difference and a big different kind of pressure. And Caleb Williams hasn't felt any of that. He just hasn't. He's been in situations that he hasn't. And again, one of those, if he goes to the Bears, one of those veteran linebackers or somebody who's been in the league for a long time, is going to go grab him by the face and look him in the eye and say, I'm going to look whoever the hell I want in the eye, buddy. And that's the way it is here. I don't know. I just know how it is.
It won't last long, basically what he's saying. So, but people, they love hearing the old stories. And I have to ask you this. You brought up Ricky Ray. I was in the league at the time. When we heard of the trade, we were like, what? And people in the Edmonton Eskimos office were like, what? We just traded Ricky Ray to Toronto? If I may, was it not, off the top of my head, Stephen Giles, Ronald Flemings, and maybe some other guy I haven't heard of?
No, it wasn't Ronald Flemings. It was Stephen Giles and the kicker punter who ended up playing there for a few years, the Canadian.
Pfeffer?
And a first-round draft pick.
Well, listen, man.
Grant Shaw, that's who it was.
Yeah. Good job, Clark, producer. My mind's starting to go, Jim. But even still, I saw a thing this week.
I hear you.
A worse.
I would remember Grant Shaw like that in the old days.
Well, I saw a thing that said worst trades in NFL history, because they're talking about Russell Wilson going from Seattle to Denver and what Denver gave up and how long Russell Wilson stayed is a terrible trade for them. I would say that Ricky Ray trade, Edmonton to Toronto, would go down as, from your perspective, one of the best. From Edmonton's, one of the worst. I mean, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Well, again, I had worked with Eric, so I knew how Eric felt about high-priced players. He was always trying to be able to pay the middle part of his roster more money. And I think he felt like I knew he loved Stephen Giles because, again, we had been together before and talked quite a bit. And I mean, kind of not a funny story, but a story is I knew Stephen Giles was coming off of a shoulder injury. And he was healthy around the midway point of our season in 2011. And Cleo Lemon was our quarterback at the time, but I had to get Giles on the field in order to prove to Eric, even though Eric and I had not even discussed it at this point, that Stephen Giles could play. And I pulled Cleo Lemon at halftime of a game and put him in because I just felt he was healthy enough. And, Cleo Lemon was there as a stopgap, like a lot of quarterbacks that are out there are. He was not going to be a guy who was going to take us to the Grey Cup, in my opinion. And so I did him a bit of a disservice in that I pulled him out and there was no real great reason for it, and played Giles a lot of the rest of the way. And then we ended up making the trade and it evolved into being something that the organization had to do. And there was a lot of talk about, Cleo should have stayed in and should have been. And that's why when things happen and people don't really understand why they happen, when you trust the people that are there to do what they're supposed to do, that was the whole reason behind it. Was Stephen Giles healthy? Well, if Stephen Giles is healthy, that gives us an opportunity to potentially move him in a deal for Ricky Ray. And sure enough, at the end of that 2011 season, that's exactly what happened.
I've heard Eric's side of it 67 ways from Sunday. And it don't matter how you want to explain it. And in Edmonton, the franchise went fast, right? But I do remember that era when BC, so you were in Toronto, you had Cleo Lemon playing at quarterback. You played BC with Travis Lulay at quarterback. We called it the Braley Bowl, right? Because David Braley owned both teams.
Yeah.
But it was also the Lulay Lemon Bowl. Travis Lulay versus Cleo Lemon. Good times. Jim, believe it or not, we are out of time. I appreciate this, man.
Wow.
Enjoy the weekend, and we'll do it again next week.
And don't worry. Do not worry. Put me down as do not worry about college football coming in on Friday nights.
All right. I'll put you down as a no. You're with me on that one.
Put me
Thank
down
you, Jim.
as a no.
Appreciate
as long as they don't bring curling in, like a league of curling on Friday nights in the fall, we're going to be okay.
Gotcha.